Okay, and let's go then to the next slide, number 4, translation by Srila Prabhupada. The highest perfectional ingenuity is the personal perception of my abodes, and this has been possible because of your submissive attitude in the performance of severe penance according to my order. Please. Okay. So this, of course, this has been a very, very nice conclusion to our previous exchanges in the Bhagavatam. The Bhagavatam all began with the impetus, at least the story we're hearing, of the sages of Naimisharanya being dissatisfied, with their welfare activities, and they didn't know how to do good for people. They were doing fire sacrifices. So they asked Sutta Goswami. He told them the proper sacrifice was this. It was hearing, Srimad Bhagavatam, Danyam Svasti Ayato Mahat, all successful, all blissful, all perfect. So then they began to hear from Sutta Goswami how he had heard the conversation between Sukadeva Goswami and Maharaj Pariksit directly. So it's like, again, someone asking somebody who's directly been there when Prabhupada was talking about something, very one generation away. And they know Sutta. Okay. So then he goes through describing, eventually he describes how Brahma spoke the Bhagavatam to Narada Muni. And then Maharaj Pariksit asks these questions about how did Narada Muni expand the ideas, how did he present them in different ways, how did he explain the structures of the universe, how did he explain the origin of creation, all these things. And then Sukadeva Goswami begins to answer, and he answers that the experience of who we are is realized when we see Krishna. And so then there's a whole history of how Brahma had this experience, how he realized who he was. He did this austerity tapa, and such nice classes, and Udagdaji describing his fructivoritarian existence, and how tapa has to be with the right attitude. It's interesting, this word seems so important. In the beginning of Nectar of Instruction, Prabhupada says that one's advancement in devotional service is dependent upon his attitude. So as far as we understand, this is bhava, buddhi. We have to get the senses engaged, indriya. We have to get the mind engaged, thinking about Krishna, desiring Krishna, and then willing, thinking, feeling, and willing. But then also we have to have the right attitude, why we're chanting our rounds, why we're following 4 principles. That's buddhi, indriya, manas, buddhi, and then or bhava, the perspective, the feeling, anubhava, very intense, proper attitude. Again, we like the example of that when an airplane is landing, one devotee, Krishna Tanu, I guess he still is. He's a pilot for Argentinian Airlines, and he flies 747s. And so here you're coming down at the runway, and there's 3 different aspects to the attitude that an airplane can have: pitch, roll, and yawl. Pitch, of course, is if the nose is up or down. Roll is whether the left wing is higher than the right wing, and yawl is whether the left wing is kind of liking to land before the right wing. So the airplane can have all these different attitude problems, and you haven't got much range. I don't know what you're bringing down. Something like maybe 175, no more than that. It must be several thousand tons of aluminum with 500 human beings and everything else. And you've got maybe like a 7 foot or 8 foot, less than that probably, maybe about 8 foot margin. And you've got to have the exact proper attitude, or else there's going to be a real ras vibat, improper mixture of mellows when the airplane hits the runway. So Lord Brahma had the proper attitude, manishita, very, very thoughtful, very, very inquisitive, and anubhava, very, very proper attitude towards his austerities. And now Krishna is saying, because of that, you get the highest perfectional, result, which is to see my abode. So the purport then probably goes on very nicely with this. Let's go on here on number 5, if you would please. Okay, purport. The highest perfectional stage of life is to know the Lord by actual perception, by the grace of the Lord. And what's that? Rajavidya Rajaguyam. The highest perfection is direct perception of the Lord by the grace of the Lord. This can be attained by everyone who is willing to discharge the act of devotional service to the Lord as enjoined in the revealed scriptures that are standard and accepted by the bona fide acharyas, spiritual masters. So it's not enough just to, execute so-called devotional service, because we hear this, all the, what are these guys called, the Manichaeists, and, so many people, they follow the rules and regulations, but it has to be according to the proper attitude as the acharyas, tell us like that. Next slide, number 6. For example, the Bhagavad Gita is the approved Vedic literature accepted by all the great acharyas, such as Shankara, Ramanuja, Madhva, Chaitanya, Vishwanath, Baladev, Siddhanta Saraswati, and many others. In that Bhagavad Gita, the personality of Godhead Sri Krishna asks that one always be mindful of Him, always be His devotee, always worship Him, and always bow down before Him. Mamana bhavamat bhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru. And by doing so, one is sure to go back home, back to Godhead without a doubt. So, of course, there's the attitude. We have to be bowing down to the Lord, be fixing our mind upon Him, and then we go back to Godhead. On number 7, please. In other places, also the same order is there, that one give up all other engagements and fully surrender unto the Lord without hesitation. My goodness, fully surrender without hesitation. And the Lord will give such a devotee all protection. So these are the secrets of attaining the highest perfectional stage. Secrets. Lord Brahma exactly followed these principles without any superiority complex. And thus he attained the highest perfectional stage of experiencing the abode of the Lord and the Lord Himself with all His paraphernalia. I guess some click going on there. Yeah, it's okay. So I was thinking about this section here. It was reminding me because, I think it was one of the verses we're studying here. It said that whatever obstacles there are in completing the surrendering process, they must be given up. If the family becomes an obstacle, then Prabhupada said they must be given up, like that. But then he says if they're not an obstacle, then one doesn't have to take sannyas, like Prabhupada did. And of course, the idea is there that everyone should give up, take a vow of giving up social intercourse. By 50 years old, Prabhupada is recommending take vanaprastha, and then very, very useful, of course, the final separation, the gross separation between the family, husband and wife, everybody else, towards seeing everybody from a spiritual perspective and having an eternal connection with everybody. So I was just thinking myself, because I can see I sometimes deviate from my personal responsibilities in devotional service a little bit, because I like the comfort of belonging to a large religious institution where I can move here and there, and where people are donating freely, and we can be allowed to do what we do. And then beyond my religious affiliations, then there's also just the academic association, which can be very, very gratifying. even subtly more gratifying than the gross connections. There's a Nobel laureate, a conference. It used to be a conference. It was organized on the East Coast by one university. It was the Nobel Conference on Aesthetics. And they had different Nobel laureates contribute their ideas about aesthetics in science, beauty in science. Of course, very interesting. And one of them wrote, very nice, for preaching, one of them wrote about the almost inconceivable pleasures of the mind. Like that. So when you start getting on this level of discussing these ideas and these subtleties, and and especially, for example, in Bengal, with all this very, very rich, heritage and culture there, so I see we become so attached to, the subtle material aspect of this academic work, and we don't want to disturb the professors and our relationships, so we may deviate from complete surrender, to Krishna, So that's the secret of actually seeing the Lord's abode, and Lord Brahma, did it, both gross and subtle with complete surrender, proper attitude. Okay, let me go on down number 8, please. Okay. And Prabhupada finishes the purport by saying, impersonal realization of the effulgence of the Lord's body is not the highest perfectional stage, nor is the stage of Paramatma realization. The word manishita is significant. Everyone is falsely or factually proud of his so-called learning. There's a nice one now. Yeah. Falsely proud or factually proud of his so-called learning. But the Lord says that the highest perfectional stage of learning is to know Him and His abode, devoid of illusion. So again, nadanam, najanam, nasundarim, kavitam va jagadisha kamaye, kavitam. All these things described in poetical language. And so, and again, somebody may be a cook. It's his nature, big, robust fellow, good sensitivity, so very natural. Be in the kitchen, cooking for festivals, distributing lots of prasadam, attracting people. But at the same time, too, realizing that this is also this subtle attachment to sense gratification. And that when he's choosing the menus, or she, then they're choosing them in terms of what they would like, Or somebody else may be an administrator, keeping so many deviant people in line, and they're praising him and saying, "Thank you, Prabhu, I was really getting out of line there. You put me back right in the right place." And on like that, controlling nature, but very generous nature, the people who are controlling them. But of course, still the same subtle attachment that can be there, that I'm everybody's dearmost friend. All this temple paraphernalia is all for my satisfaction. So on and on, or else again in our position in the intellectual atmosphere, Manishita, Prabhupada says one should not be too proud of his own ideas. See, it's so easy. Somebody else is proud of his wife, or his car, or his position, or his physical strength, all these things. But then scholars, they may renounce all these things. We were talking to Radhika Raman Das about kind of the ethos amongst theologians. And he said it's very kind of humorous because you have to have you have to dress like a theologian. You have to drive a theologian's car. If you have like a Lamborghini sports car, then all the eyebrows will raise up, like that and stuff. I go by when I'm coming and going every evening to Nitai Gaur Sundar's house. We go out for a walk every evening and associate. I pass by the local fire station, and it's amazing. Almost every time there's five pickup trucks in the parking lot. So if you're going to be a fireman, you've got to drive a pickup truck. So same way, scholars, they haven't got all these things, but they got their ideas. And oh boy, they get so attached, so proud of their ideas like that. So even if they are good ideas, we have to go ahead and not be falsely or factually proud of his so-called learning. Because ultimately it's all factual. The other side of the point is that it's describing, this came up in an earlier class, about pride, and I think it's Srivas Thakur and maybe Swarup Damodar are talking about the goddess of fortune when she comes to the Hare Panchami festival. And she comes and attacks her husband with her opulence like that. And Krishna kind of smiles and she harasses the Brijvasis. So they start talking about pride. And then I think it's Swarup Damodar talks about the gopis. Their pride is like a many-branched river, you know. So there's that aspect of pride too. But then there's no pride for one's own personal qualifications, independent of Krishna. But actually, it's a pride in Krishna, you know, how great Krishna is and so on. So very subtle, and it's difficult to dovetail. You know. So everyone is falsely or factually proud of his own learning. But the highest perfectional stage of learning is to know him and his abode devoid of illusion. So yeah, we should take some pride in our work and our service. We really did something. Jayananda, who we experienced as kind of being humility personified, they asked him one time, what is humility? And he said, humility is not being artificially big or artificially small. Humility is really understanding more and more and more and more precisely what is your real position, like that. And so pride is the other side of that. It's then glorifying, respecting, promoting your position. You know? So a businessman, one of our friends is a business fellow, he had a parking lot cleaning business in Miami, and he had maybe maybe 50 different teams that would go out every night on these kind of small, they're big, but one guy would sit on the things. They're not as big as the ones that go in the street, but pretty big. So one guy would go ahead and just, sweep the entire parking lots, these big malls. Otherwise, they really fall apart within just a few days. Sweep them, and the other guy would change the trash boxes and pick up stuff. So he had a lot of employees like that, other fellow, and he showed me he had 6 different suits, expensive suits, not real expensive, but when you look at them, you can tell these weren't cheap, And he said he had to have 6 because that way his employees couldn't figure out, how many suits he had. Oh, yeah, Mr. Gennaro. Thursday, Mr. Gennaro wears that suit. So with 6, that way it always was ending up a different suit a different day. And his employees kind of thought they had, the boss has unlimited opulence. Chandika Pandit says the same thing. The king should not be too frightening, or else people won't be able to enjoy themselves in his presence. And he should also not be too mild, or else then they'll start to take advantage of him, and they won't, listen to him. He can't do his job properly. So this whole thing about being proud and the proper attitude really is a matter of self-realization. And then we see that, for it to do his job, Kshatriya has to have weapons, good dress, and social prestige. If you're a manager, you got to look like a manager. If you're the mayor's wife, you got to look like the mayor's wife. So, yeah. But as you go on, you realize more and more this is just for Krishna, just for Krishna. So it goes beyond being small and being nothing. It goes on into transcendence, like that. So that's our kind of realization. Prabhupada's purport is very nice in this topic, and continuing with the same theme of how Brahma was able to see the Lord's abode. And when he saw that, then of course we automatically can react properly ourselves. You think of a person can react to us like this and that, but if we go to the person's house, then we have chairs to sit in, temperature control with air conditioning, heating, interaction with eating and working on some plans in the library, swimming, dressing, So that person's abode then, we know him, even better by seeing his house and his associates and stuff like that. And we can become fully realized what is our relationship with him. So going on in this theme, next slide, number 9, please, Master. We have, we're thinking of the Lord's most confidential abode. Shri Brajamanda ki jai, Damodar Vrata ki jai. Yeah. And I hope you can see this. It's a map of Brajamandala. And probably you can see the Jamuna there. She's pretty big. She comes down and makes a big turn and goes down a little bit more. And about maybe 1/3 of the way down the map, you can see is Vrindavan. Vrindavan. Yeah. And then opposite that on the left, our left.
Maharaj, I have to interrupt. All we see is Sri Vrindavan Mahamrita, Nectar of the Glories of Vrindavan. Just the title, but there's no...
Oh, my goodness. Okay. What happened? Maybe I guess you got an older version. Okay, so what you have is Vrindavan Mahimamrita.
Yeah, just the title, that's all, but nothing else.
Okay, go to the next slide. What do you get?
I did. It says, thank you very much.
Oh, my goodness. Okay, I sent you an older version.
Okay.
Okay, well, I'll just describe it myself and with my vision, my transcendental vision, my stupid attitude. Okay, Sri Brajamandala ki jai. So in front of us, if you can do this too, is a nice picture. So right in the middle is just about in the middle is Vrindavan, and as we're facing it, it's on the left side of the Jamuna. And I think it's there's 12 forests. I think 7 on the left side as we're facing it, and those belong to Krishna and his gang. On the other side, the right side, there's 5 forests, and they belong to Balaram and his gang. So even now, it's the Brajmanda Parikrama, if you go around there, because in the Parikrama, we would just go right down into the Brijbasi's existence. Like I was saying before, we would just stay in the farmhouses with wooden shutters, and such a nice experience of if you really get into it, still, the Vrindavan Dham is there everywhere. And so if you're on the eastern side of the Jamuna, some guy may say to you, how's it go? Dauji Kabaya, and you have to say Krishna Kanaya, who's the younger brother of Balaram. You have to admit that Krishna is the younger brother, like that. Otherwise, they'll grab you and wrestle with you until you admit it. That, Balaram is the boss. So many wonderful places within the Braj Mandala. And Lord Chaitanya went there. He went there himself and experienced it. Again, like Mahesh was pointing out, all of our ISKCON temples, Prabhupada says every one of our ISKCON temples, every corner is Vaikuntha, But Vrindavan Dham is also, Vrindavan Dham. And so with different devotional perspectives, different service, then we take advantage of different aspects. The holy names, prasadam, the deities, the temple, and Vrindavan Dham. And so very, very nice perception. But the perception has to be really by hearing. Otherwise, you can be on the Dham and not in the Dham. Now, of course, so much of the Dham, even within our own experience, since 1978 when we went there, the inner parikrama around the city of Vrindavan has all now been covered, with this nasty asphalt. So that's not, I would say that's not kind of the Dham. That's on the Dham. If you pull it up, the dust of Vrindavan is under that, And last time I was there, I noticed that if you walk on the edge of it, if you're careful, all the way around, you could walk in the dust barefoot. There were a couple places here and there where I had to walk on the Dham rather than in the Dham. But mostly it's like that. If you're still in Kali Yuga, one by one these different places will disappear, But if we're Manishita, ingenious, we will be able to see the inside, see the inside of Brajamandal, and then have a relationship with it like that, So that's one aspect of seeing the Lord's abode. Another aspect we had in our slideshow here was Srimad Bhagavatam 1.3.43. Krishne svadamo pagate dharma jnanaribi saha kalo nasta drishamesha puranarko denoditaha. Kalo nasta drisha. So those have lost this vision, lost this darshan, lokanam, darshan of the Lord's abode because of the dense darkness of Kali Yuga. So we can see Kali Yuga. It's there in Vrindavan Dham. It's there in our temples. And because of that, maybe we lose our vision. So where is it? It's in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Can't remember the verse now. Mahamune Chakaram Bhagavan Rishi Neshrayashraya Lokasya Idam Bhagavata Nama Puranam Brahmasamitam Uttamashloka Charitam Chakaram Bhagavan Rishi. Chakara, it's the same thing. That he composed this, and so Srimad Bhagavatam, if you look at the end of that purport, 1.3.43, Prabhupada says Bhagavad Gita is the preliminary study of Bhagavatam. And Srimad Bhagavatam is the summum bonum of life. Wow. Lord Sri Krishna personified. We must therefore accept Srimad Bhagavatam as a direct representation of Lord Krishna. One who can see Srimad Bhagavatam can see also Lord Sri Krishna in person. They are identical. So there's another abode. I would say this is the idea in Kali Yuga, that the literary incarnation. In Kali Yuga, Lord Chaitanya comes as the ideal preacher of Srimad Bhagavatam. And in Srimad Bhagavatam is the manifestation that people can appreciate of Prabhupada says, I think Prabhupada is saying it also, that even if an atheist goes to Vrindavan, he will feel separation from Krishna. I've seen things like this, But same thing with Bhagavatam. Again, I've seen big atheists, who totally accept evolution as the cause of life. These are more Indian scholars who know the Bhagavatam. But this fellow, it was just amazing. He was saying that the highest manifestation of evolution was the Srimad Bhagavatam. And there was nothing like it anywhere. Isn't it wonderful? Evolution of human intellect, evolution of species, in the end produced the Bhagavad Puran. Like that. Yes. So even atheists, can have this experience and relationship with Krishna in his abode, his manifest. Maybe some little bit of opening in the heart like that. So during Kartika, of course, very nice to contemplate and meditate. And devotees, everybody develops, of course, their own specific, beautiful realizations of Krishna. And the Sangha and such is such a mercy for opportunity to exchange these with people. So nice. I feel very honored to be able to participate. We try and listen to every class like that. And so then, Vrindavan Dham, going there doing Kartik, and of course, again, the monsoon season is over many times, and the cold winter usually it starts to come. Winter starts to come, but there's a lot of time in there where it was fall, which has a very, very mystical feeling. And I know, for example, I would go to the Krishna Balaram Mandir, the beautiful courtyard with the black and white, checkered tiles there. And during the afternoon, after the lunch and before the 4:30 Artik, there's only maybe like 5, 6, 7 people there, and the Akhanda Sankirtan's going on. And so you can chant there, and this is such a nice time. You just Radha Nisham and Radha Shama Sundar just right behind the doors. And different impressions come, like, okay, here we are sitting out in Vrindavan, and it's warm, and the sun coming down, and kind of keeping an eye out that Jatila's not coming, or somebody. And Radha and Shama Sundar enjoying their pastimes of resting together. So very, very easy for different thoughts come about Krishna and chant, and look at the beautiful pictures on the wall. It's a very, very wonderful time, just externally to stimulate, proper feelings of Krishna consciousness and Krishna's abode. So then Srimad Bhagavatam, and then what we have here then is Sri Vrindavan Dham Mahimamrita, the nectarian glories of Sri Vrindavan Dham. and it's by Prabodhananda Saraswati, who is the uncle of Jiva Goswami, and he's an incarnation of Tunga Vidya. She's the gopi on our left, on the far left, and Tunga means apex, and Vidya means knowledge, so she's the apex of all knowledge. And Lalita's attitude, to our understanding, is very, very, critical. If Krishna shows up 10 minutes late for some birthday party, she's all over his case. Where were you? This and that. But Tunga Vidya's attitude was, well, come on, Lalita, give him a chance. Maybe the guy had a bona fide excuse, And so Lalita's going to argue with her, no way, When our Radha organizes a birthday party for Krishna, he should be here 5 minutes early, to speak of 10 minutes late, So these are different expansions of Radharani's attitude. And our acharyas, in Bhakti Siddhanta and Brihat, Chaitanya Bhagavat, I think his commentary, he says that the so-called followers of Rupa Goswami and Prabodhananda Saraswati created an argument, but there was never any disagreement between Prabodhananda Saraswati and Rupa Goswami. They both fully appreciated each other like that. But maybe because we are Rupanugas, we don't follow so much Prabodhananda Saraswati's perspective sometimes. But Prabhupada quotes him, like that, commentaries. So then from the Vrindavan Mahimamrita, it's composed of shatakas, or 100 verses. And I think there's like 23 or something shatakas that we have. And of course, he was a very erudite, Sri Vaishnava Brahmin. And his Sanskrit was probably peerless, everything else. So you can, as you're reading these in Vrindavan Dham, like on the Parikrama, sitting in the dust, it's such a very, very intense experience of the place there. So I picked a couple out of the first Shataka. And he starts off the entire thing by saying, meditating on the lotus feet of Sri Sri Radha Murli Manohar, placing myself in the dust of Lord Chaitanya's feet, and respectfully offering obeisances to the great devotees of the Lord, who are so many oceans of transcendental virtue, like this Isanga. I shall now happily begin to praise the transcendental opulences of Sri Vrindavan. Number 2, I am not strong enough to go to the far shore of the great nectar ocean of Vrindavan's glories. Who can go there? However, because I love Vrindavan, I shall now dip into that ocean. I pray that this endeavor may become successful and bring an auspicious result. It's if I adopt a Madame Mohan attitude here, or perspective, it's very interesting to go through and change the word Vrindavan for ISKCON. I am not strong enough to go to the far shore of ISKCON's glories. Because I love ISKCON, I will now dip into that ocean. It makes a very, very stimulating idea about what is ISKCON and who are we. Okay, we'll go on with Vrindavan here. Number 3, O Sri Vrindavan, please reveal in my heart your wonderful transcendental form, full of the most confidential spiritual knowledge and bliss. Embarrassed to describe the highest nectar, the Upanishads only say, not this, not this. Where are you described? Let me go down here, our next slide. Day and night, number 4. I glorify, oh my goodness. Okay, I lost control of my slides there. Day and night I glorify Vrindavan, which is filled with the wonder of Sri Sri Radha and Krishna's pastimes. The wonder of the greatest sweetness, the ultimate nectar of Lord Hari, the sweetest, most beautiful, auspiciousness, and a flood of virtues, Anantasesha, Shiva, and a host of others cannot cross. Think of Vrindavan with love. Roll in its dust. Love it ardently. Please its moving and non-moving residence. Worship Sri Radha's birthplace. With all your heart, take shelter of Sri Vrindavan, the best of all holy places. course, Radharani was born in Raval, which is down the river. It's right across from Mathura, pretty much. You go down from Vrindavan on the west side, and you come to Mathura. And then you cross over there, and Raval is there, but it's more inland a little bit. That's where Radharani appeared. And right near there is Gokul on the coast, on the river. That's where Krishna appeared. And then Krishna moved to Chatikar, which is west of Vrindavan town. Of course, when you take the road down from Delhi, you get off the main road there at Chatikar. That's that place there. And go down the other little road towards Vrindavan. And when he moved there, then Radharani moved to Basanti. And Basanti is more west. And there's nothing much there, I think, really now. It's more like kind of little mandir. I mean, not even a mandir you can go inside of, as I remember. Yeah. And then Krishna moved with Nanda Maharaj to Nandagaon. And then Radharani's family moved to Barsana, like that. Barsana Wali ki jai, jai, jai. And so roll in the dust. There's nothing more merciful than the dust of Sri Vrindavan Dham. If you roll in the dust of Vrindavan, it will be very easy for you to attain the same destination as that fortunate handful of pearls that was strung into a garland by Krishna himself and then hung around the neck of Radharani. If you roll in the dust of Vrindavan, it will be very easy to obtain the same position. Of course, we can also talk about rolling in the dust of our temples. Yes. Worship is moving and non-moving residents. This includes the camels, I guess, too, who are extremely bizarre. You know, the pastimes of camels in Vrindavan is something unbelievable. Yeah. And the monkeys of Vrindavan go on with the pastimes of the monkeys of Vrindavan and trying to worship them. But especially Radha Shama Sundar, so manifest there in Vrindavan by Srila Prabhupada's mercy. Then he goes on to say, number 6, if the Vedanta does not directly describe Vrindavan, why should that matter to me? If the faulty logicians who were like serpents living in the Vedic literatures, ignore Vrindavan, why should I care? Even if the devotees of the Lord do not understand the glories of Vrindavan, how does that affect me? Even if my heart were pierced with thousands of thunderbolts, I would never leave ISKCON. Okay. I would never leave Vrindavan. Okay. A fanatic. When you read this, you realize that Tunga Vidya is a fanatic. You know, she's a fanatic about Vrindavan. Yeah. I meditate on Vrindavan where the cuckoos sing the 5th note. The flute plays splendid melodies. Peacocks sing and dance. Vines and trees bloom. Splendid and charming forests are wonderful with many birds and deer, and there are many splendid lakes, streams, and hills. Yeah. And number 24. Today or tomorrow, this worthless material body will leave me, and all the material happiness connected with it will also leave. Because material happiness is temporary, it should be understood to be only a mirage of the real happiness. Oh, my mind, please abandon this false happiness and enjoy the real, eternal happiness of devotional service within the land of Vrindavan. So we got there in 1978, the year of Prabhupada's first Tir Bhava festival. And it was very interesting in so many ways. It was after being a devotee and being austerities, 4 years of trying to be a devotee and struggling and studying and austerities. And finally we were going to leave, and we had such an intense experience that it really, my attitude was, my God, I don't want to leave Vrindavan. I just want to go off and, if I have to, and just disappear into the forest and starve to death someplace here. I would prefer to do that, to go back to the other aspect of this material world. But then I got this kind of strong impression that all the gopis and everybody else were saying, but if you don't go, then how will anybody else know about it? So we were mentioning this. I think Pushkar is saying this, quoting somebody. We have to get out there, book distributor. Somehow or other, we have to get out. and quote General Schwarzkopf or whatever it is, it doesn't take a hero. Just get out the way you can. I went across the street down our kind of the mall, which is economically kind of falling apart, to the Murfreesboro book bin or something, you know. And it's a local bookstore there, kind of strange place. And the guy was putting up all kinds of books. He said, "We're not actually open, but come on in. But I wore my full Vaishnava dress there. And we made up a nice brochure for our NEOS organization. Finally got it worked out. It's got the elephant on it with the blind men. And this is what we are, what NEOS is, North American Institute. We're trying to create a forum where different classical cultures can contribute to making a better world. And of course, you know, we're from one tradition, no doubt about it, but it doesn't mean we don't appreciate other people, you know. So I gave him that. He kind of looked at it and nodded, you know. And then we're talking that, yeah, they do special events, and yeah, if we had some books and wanted to do some, you know, regular, like once a month, like a little reading circle, and you know, try and have our books there for sale through them, that would be maybe a good idea. And yeah, tea and coffee are acceptable, you know. So even ourselves, we're extremely shy. Get out there, however you can do it. If people can do it different ways, you know. For a lady to wear a sari around like that, you know, some ladies say it's not so difficult because, you know, you're a lady, you dress different ways. But for a man to wear a dhoti outside, it needs a little more pressure, you know. So everybody has some facility to get out and to kind of meet your circle, you know. Make your circle Krishna consciousness, Krishna conscious. Deliver your circle like that. And so then, you know, give our internal consciousness of Vrindavan Dham, which you've seen by the attitude, which are developing by the association of Prabhupada, you know, ISKCON, Vrindavan, you know, give that to other people. And as long as we have a little bit of Krishna consciousness when we're out there, then Krishna, the gopis, all the Brijbasis, they can hang on to us. And this is what Brahma asks. Brahma asks the Lord later on, I'm going to be dealing with all this crazy stuff. I just don't want to become so confused by it that I forget you. And then Krishna says, I promise you, you won't forget me, like that. So if you want to see a copy of this Vrindavan Mahimamrita, it's online at the Vrindavan website, www.vrindavan-dham, Brindavan, Dham. So there's no A's at the end, vrindavandham.com. Okay. So that's kind of the presentation we had. Then any questions, comments, complaints?
Mars, at the end, I was able to look it up online. We're following all of the on Vrindavan-dham.
Yeah, somebody's microphone is bouncing away and making lots of noise there. Yeah. Okay, yeah.
No, I just said that we were able to find it.
Oh, yeah, it's so nice.
As you were
because you go, for example, like he'll go into long sections about Radha Kund and some of the Shatakas, so it seems like he must have been like in his wandering here and there, he was at Radha Kund or something, you know. And then something else, he'll go on like just like 10, 15 verses describing the qualities of Radharani with Kushakrata's translations. I like his translations that he said, they're like a little bit rough and, you know, some mistakes and so on. But at the same time, too, his poetry is just so intense in many ways like that. You know, so his translation, that's the one that's on the Vrindavan website. So different translations gives different perspectives, but Kushakrata is very nice and had the intensity like that. And he left his body in Vrindavan. If anybody tells you to leave ISKCON, I will cut out his tongue. If anybody tries to drag me out by ISKCON from ISKCON by force, I will kill him. Even if I'm so poor that I have to steal from others to live, I will never leave ISKCON. Okay, it makes a very funny perspective when you change the word ISKCON for Vrindavan. But it's the same thing. He goes on, he says, anybody who sees imperfections in Vrindavan is an idiot, a fool. There are no imperfections in ISKCON. ISKCON is perfect in every way. They are simply the object of everybody's laughter. I pray I do not see their faces at the moment of my death. But, yeah, okay.
I know you don't see this because you're on the telephone, but I'll read it to you. Sunil from Mumbai, he's been regularly coming for some weeks now, every day, morning and evening. Always has nice questions. He asks, Prabhuji, that means Maharaj, please tell difference between Shuddha Sattva and Vishuddha Sattva. Are both the same?
I've never seen Prabhupada use the word pretty much Shuddha Sattva. I mean, I guess it does occur sometimes. I mean, as far as I understand, Vishuddha Sattva and Shuddha Sattva is basically talking about the same thing. Maybe there's some real subtle distinction. Because to me, when I was becoming a devotee, I couldn't figure out what was wrong with goodness. Okay, passion and ignorance, you want to avoid it, but what's wrong with goodness, you know? But goodness in the material world, sattva gun, is always contaminated with either rajas or tamas, either hankering or lamentation. I'm in the present moment, but I'm eating, right? I'm eating, but I'm hankering that I finished off my subji and there's no more available. I'm lamenting, or I'm hankering when they're going to start serving out the jalebis and the rasagullas and stuff, you know. So I can't really appreciate what I'm actually eating, you know. So that's the problem with material sattva. But as we do austerities, just by associating with the Virat Rup, you know, just by having a very natural pantheistic association with the material world as it's created, with a little devotional attitude towards it, you know, then we become purified to Shuddha Sattva. At that point, there's no material contamination, and we realize that all there is the present moment, and that all of my future is just thoughts, and all of my past is just thoughts. That's how I'm experiencing them for the most part. And I get free from those, and I just here in the present moment, at that point, the material world becomes an accurate reflection of the spiritual world. And I realize that everything is spiritual, Brahman, and I realize that the form of that spiritual nature, the Paramatma, you know. And then in Vishuddha Sattva, Vasudev Sattva, it's also called, Vasudev can take birth. In that position, then it becomes easy then to go to Ananda, Satya and Ananda. You know, that's kind of our perspective. But as far as I understand, yeah, that when the Prabhupada talks about it, Shuddha Sattva means the same as the Vishuddha Sattva stage, and that's the maybe the sat existence of the Sandini existence. And as we go on, then the Samvit, which is the features of the spiritual world become manifest. And you go on more, than the Ananda, Hladini Shakti becomes manifest, which includes all the others.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj, this is Mahesh here from Kona.
Okay, you can't get off the island, can you?
Yeah, so a couple of things. One is, I don't know if you're aware, I just got the information that Krishna Balaram Swami just passed away a couple months ago, and I didn't know about that. But
thank you.
Krishna Balaram, he was in Berkeley for many years when you were there.
Yeah, I know him for a long time. Yeah, I was kind of meditating on him there. It's interesting. Okay.
Yeah, he passed away in Long Island. No. Krishna Balaram Swami, not the Brijabasi, but
Kriyan Valentine.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, Kriyan Valentine. That was his name.
Okay.
Yeah.
So anyway, he passed away, and he was a very good friend of mine, actually. Just wanted to let you know that, because I think you knew him quite well.
No, I did. Yeah, we traveled together, different things like that. We had an association in San Francisco, you know,
yeah.
Even like a few years ago. That's interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
You had a good time.
The second thing is, why don't you maybe elucidate this for me, because, you know, I really appreciate that you brought your lecture, especially talking about Daochi Temple, Daochi and Raval. You know, I was in these places in 2011, 3 years ago. Now, I could feel that there was a tremendous spiritual power in these places, but the places today, they are really, the worship there and the way they are managed is not Prabhupada's standard. And I was thinking, wow, how could this be? I mean, you could feel the spiritual potency, like the kirtan we had at the Daochi temple was unbelievable. I mean, it was amazing. We could jump, 5 feet into the sky or something. It was incredible. But you could feel that the deity worship was not up to standard, not Prabhupada's standard anyway. So how do you explain that? How could there be places and then the worship?
Even it's interesting because somebody asked Prabhupada when he was in Berkeley. They said, Swamiji, are there problems in your temples? And I heard Prabhupada respond, ho, ho, ho. This is the material world. There are problems everywhere. And so we get this fact that even when Krishna was personally present 5,000 years ago in Vrindavan, there were demons coming. And they were so ferocious, they were causing the girls to have abortions, miscarriages like that. They were, flesh-eating horses and stuff. And it was like, that was Krishna's personally present. So, okay. So this is Gokula, Goloka. This is Gokula, H-I-J-K-L. This is Gokula. So in the Boma Lila, these things go on, and Krishna allows them to go on like that for certain purposes like that, these demons come. Like when I was in Vrindavan, the Parikrama, I was looking at all these motorcycles. They did try and run you down sometimes or something. It's really terrifying, All these motorcycles as Keshi Ashura, and all the tractors as Aristasura, So, but when we go through out in the Brijbashi, out in the Dham and there and the Parikrama, you'll come to like these little temples, and they're very old. And some of them have been there for a long time, and they have a lot of lila associated with them. And the Pujari will kind of welcome us there. Maybe we'll stop a little bit in the Parikrama. And he's like in simple Brijbasi dress, and what do you call it? Kind of, maybe the clothes aren't so new like that, but they're okay. He's Pujari, he's clean, beard, young man, maybe 28, 30. And he starts talking in English, And then he says, my father and my family have been the Pujaris here for many years. And my father sent me to Delhi, and I got a degree in engineering, and I had a good job. But he said, I didn't like it, So I came back, and I've taken over as the Pujari now, and they have a few of Prabhupada's books, maybe, third canto, part 1 or this. And they're starting to read them. And more, we're hearing the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, And so that's what I see. It's just that these demons are always attacking everything else, like this and that, the deity worship, so many things, and covering over the consciousness. But we as stupid Westerners, representing Srila Prabhupada in different ways, the Brijbasis, they can be saved from all this stuff, by Prabhupada's books. And so introducing those books, there are a little book distribution even for them in the proper way. And Prabhupada explains this so that the next generation of Brijbasis, and many of them are like that. Many of them are, they're looking at things the same way we look at it. They're trained in this industrialized perspective. So for them, Prabhupada's books just touch them right away, the way he explains it. So that's what I would say is just a natural result of Kali Yuga. And if you can penetrate, you can go beyond that. See why it's happening, what's happening. And then if you can preach and everything else, then I've seen it again and again. These Brijbasis and different people, Pujaris, they do take up ideas. It does correct things. And it's really, I have many examples I could cite of like how ISKCON and Prabhupada have really purified the Dham and stuff like that, Navadvip and Vrindavan.
Thank you. That was very good. I appreciate that.
Okay. Hare Krishna.
The residents of the Dham have such security to be born there.
Oh my God.
You can't criticize it. One time, the story of Ramanujacharya was in Jagannath Puri, and he saw these pandas they're eating fish, they're chewing pan. I'm going to bring all my high Brahmins from from South India here to take over, and he woke up miles and miles away in the Shiva temple. And Jagannath came to him. You leave my pandas alone. They're my men.
Yeah, I'll take care of them. Yeah. Where was Putana born?
I don't know.
In Vrindavan.
In Vrindavan.
Yeah, there's one village we go there. It's called Kechari. And of course, Bakasura and Agasura were her brother and sister, quite a family, So maybe they're also Brijbasi. So Putana is Brijbasi.
Hmm.
And we were there on the Parikrama, and Radharaman Maharaj, Indian devotee, he's telling us this whole story. He's giving the katha in Hindi, how this is Kechari, and this is where Putana is born, and this and that and stuff, And one old man with a little boy, kind of sitting there just listening and everything. He said, "Oh no, she wasn't born here. She wasn't born here, And that's a mistake, And so he apologizes in Hindi, and then in English he told us, he said, everybody in Vrindavan knows she was born.
No.
Everybody accepts it, but the people here never accept it, So it's
Raghunath Das Goswami says, I would rather hear the gossipy talk of the Brajavasis than hear Shastra anywhere else.
Yeah, there's still, and many times the Brijbasis forget that they're Brijbasis.
Oh yeah.
They're carrying all this crazy stuff, and you can see it as the depth, the subtlety. It's not an ordinary way they do these things. The way they live their ordinary lives is not ordinary. It's got a certain unbelievable depth to it many times, But okay, Putana's Putana, and when Putana comes, we run. We get out of there. We grab our babies and don't toss our babies to Putana. Say, hey, Mama, here's my baby. Yeah. Well, okay, I guess we should go ahead now and engage in Gopastami and worship the cow. And thank you all so very, very much. I'm sorry, I tried to check the PowerPoint shows before I send them. Goodness.
Yeah, we couldn't see the illustration of Vrindavan. Oh.
Yeah, it's nice one. I'll send it, But I'll try and be more careful to check them before I send them, because they go to different levels. And it takes me a whole week to kind of put it together. So thank you so very much. It's really nice to be classes every day.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you, Maharaj. Hare Krishna. Hare Happy Halloween.
Hare Krishna.